I am going to do a series of videos on the rebuilding of one of my favorite guitars. I've had this thing for 15 years or so, maybe more. This guy right here. Loved this guitar, and it was my main guitar until the volume knob decided it just wants to do nothing but spin in a circle. I checked and the pot's solid, so it's the innards on it finally gave out. If you get it in the right spot, it'll work, but as soon as you bump it, it's done. So I didn't have any ambition to tear it apart and play with it, so that got hung on the wall, and I started playing with, at that point I started buying other guitars and started playing them. The biggest thing about this guitar that I love is just how it feels. That when I went to buy it, I think I found it on Craigslist, and the guy lived about an hour away. I went to take a look at it. It was shiny. The heck is it called? Gloss black, and it was dirty. It had some chips taken out of the paint. It was a rough guitar, but as soon as I picked it up, it just felt good. Felt really good, and I knew that all this other stuff could be cleaned and fixed and stuff, so the fact that it felt really good was what got my attention. So this kind of sketchy dude living in his corner of a basement, I don't even know if it was his house, his parents' house, whose house it was, but the guy kind of didn't know if I was going to make it out of there alive, so I didn't look it over intensely, but I figured, feels good, I'm taking it. $70, gone. Got it home, started to tear it apart, took the strings off, and all of a sudden, thunk! I was like, headstock's laying on the floor. It's like, holy crap. So I got to looking, and I don't know how I didn't feel it or see it, but the headstock was completely broke. I mean, clean off. The thing about it though was it wasn't a clean break, so when you put it together, it kind of, had some friction to hold it together. Then when you put the strings on, the tension of the strings held it in place. And you couldn't even tell. I mean, it felt good, it played well, but I don't know how my thumb didn't feel that. Or my eyes see it, because it's obvious. But I glued it back together, and it seemed pretty good. The only problems I had with it was that there must have been some material missing when I clamped it back together, that it scalloped the first fret slightly, which is no big deal. I mean, as long as you play lightly, it stays in tune, but if you death grip it in any sense of the word, it'll go out of tune. And somehow the locking nut here slid a little bit too, so now the high E string don't take nothing to, well, I stuck it on the pickup there, but yeah, it don't take nothing to, when you're fretting it, to just pull it right off the fretboard. But as long as you're careful, it works fine. So I've decided I'm gonna fix this thing up and make it worthy again. I really hate to replace the neck, because after doing research on this with the serial number, I found out that this was 1999, and it's an RX10. There was several. It was their earlier X series, because the newer X series is that guy up there, and the quality difference between this and that is night and day. To me, this is a cheap guitar. I mean, crappy licensed Floyd on it. It's ugh. The pickups are, again, they're like Seymour Duncan style pickups, but they're cheap. The tuners, they're junk. This thing is just, even new, I don't see how this would have been a high-end guitar. But the research I was doing on it said these things went for like $500. I'm thinking I wouldn't have paid $200 for it new. And also the body is smaller. I didn't notice that until I had gotten that one and I didn't have a case for it, and I thought, well, I'll just throw it in the case for this. Nope. That guitar is about as big as the case. I mean, this thing is a small guitar, and I think that's maybe why it felt more comfortable to me when I first first picked it up. But I'd like to replace the neck, but like I said, this is an original, well, original as original can be, Jackson, because it was built before Fender bought out Jackson and took it over. And this was actually made in India. There's MIJ, which is the made in Japan, the MII made in India, and this one apparently was made in India, but still the most truest Jackson I have in this room, because every other one is Fender era Jacksons. I'd like to replace the neck just to make it nice again, but I'm torn because I was looking on eBay and places, and I can find another neck that actually is off of the DX10 series, which the DX is just after I figured this all out on my own, by the way. The DX was the dinky body, D for dinky. This was the RX, R for Rhodes, and then they had a KX, which was for the King V. And I found a few DX model necks that would work for this, because it has a narrower heel pocket on here than the regular Jacksons. And boy, I do that a lot, don't I? The biggest problem I have is they were all 24 fret necks, and this is a 22. So I'd like to keep this 22. I'd like to keep it as original as possible, but I'm looking at cheapest I think I seen them for was $250 for an original. I did it again. Original neck, and so I may end up going with the aftermarket. We'll see. But anyway, that's going to be part of my future videos to see where I go, because what I'd like to do is change this out to a real Floyd, or even like that one's got a Floyd Rose Special on it, which is still made by Floyd. It's just the cheap. Wow, if I could, it's a cheaper part of the line. So I want to put a new Floyd in it. I want to get rid of this pickup, because I've always been a bridge pickup player. I am not a lead player in the least. I'm barely a rhythm player. I mean, I just like collecting guitars and playing them. I'm not actually good. But I never use this pickup. You can pick up any guitar in this room and the selector switch will be all the way back to this pickup. The other thing is tone knob. Fortunately, this one doesn't have a tone knob. That's just got the volume, which don't work. But if, again, pick up any guitar in this room, that tone knob is going to be cranked all the way to the high end. So I don't need this pickup. I don't need this switch, and I don't need a tone knob. So that makes my job a little easier there. So I plan to get rid of this pickup, cut a blank, fit in there and fill that cavity, and then hopefully I can match the comic strips pretty well, because this thing was real bright, really vivid when I first did it 4 years ago or so. And it's yellowed and I love it. So I'm not sure how, I'll figure out something, but I'm not sure how I'll do that. And then I want to swap this pickup out for, my main pickup that I love is the EMG 81 active pickup. And I just love the sound. Of course, not a single guitar in here has that pickup, but I thought about putting that in. And then I kind of just want to stick with a passive and go with like a Seymour Duncan or a DiMarzio. And then I thought about going with a colored pickup, do like maybe a light blue to match some of the comic. And then I thought going bright yellow just to be bam. And so I'm not sure where I'm going with that. And leave your ideas or comments or, you know, suggestions in the comments, and help me kind of build this thing. Or, you know, odds are I won't listen to you. I'll just do what I want to anyway, like my wife says I always do. And she's right. And then I'm going to move the volume pickup. I think I'm going to move it down to this hole here and fill that one, because I hate where that volume is when you're, I mean, always hitting it. That hurt. Oh, and then the plug-in, the input jack, I'm thinking about moving it up here like on the other Jacksons and doing a recess input and get rid of that from down here and put it up here. I'm not sure. We'll see how ambitious I am and how involved I really want to get. And then, like I said, the neck, boy, that's a 50-50. Again, give me suggestions. And then I'm going to get some higher end tuners, because like I said, these are, I don't know, they're honestly not that bad, but they're just, you can tell they're not quality. I think that's about what all I plan to do with this. Oh, the headstock, do I leave it? If I can get an original headstock, original neck, I will leave the headstock with the black with the Jackson logo. But if I have to get an aftermarket, I don't know. Should I paint the headstock a color to match, or should I comic strip it? Go ahead and put the comic strips on the headstock too, or I don't know. Let me know what you think, and I guess the next video I'll do will be tearing down and starting the body work. The body work. And get this thing going. Thanks.